Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get straight on into it. So on the show this morning, we're going to be talking about dressing room chaos. We're going to be talking about the aftermath of what happened after the Brighton game. We have had a few stories come out, which we will talk about on that matter. We're also going to be talking about the club supposedly backing Erik Ten Hag and saying that his job is secure. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about the players who apparently are feeling unsettled and uncertain about the takeover situation. We will get into all of that. There's lots of other bits to talk about as well. A couple of bits of transfer stuff to bring you, which I think we'll take with a pinch of salt, but I will, of course, talk about it as it is a morning show. A news show. As always, do let me know what your thoughts are on everything we discuss in the comments section, in the live chat, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start off with the dressing room chaos story. So this is coming out from a couple of different journalists in the UK this morning, and they are saying the following. It says 4 Manchester United players were involved in heated arguments following the loss against Brighton. The story goes on to say Bruno Fernandes confronted Scott McTominay after Saturday's defeat to Brighton. Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof also lost it with each other after the game. It then says that... Where does it say? It then says the dressing room is in disarray. How does everybody feel about that? I mean, you know what? In some ways, I'm glad that they were all having arguments with each other because that clearly shows that they do care. You know, the fact that they actually are coming off the pitch and fighting with each other, they should have really shown a bit more fight on the pitch, to be honest. That's the only thing I will say. Like, you can, what? So what are they doing? Just blaming each other? Is that what's happening? It's a bit childish, really, isn't it? But I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of this. I think that these types of stories get blown out of proportion in the media a lot of the time. You know, the headline is always very, very, very like worst case scenario. They're all professional athletes. Imagine you've just been completely embarrassed at home, right? You're going to be absolutely devastated. You're going to be angry. You're going to be trying to put the blame on other people. I think that, you know, the squad has got a certain amount of resolve, a certain amount of unity amongst them. And I think that this is just a natural thing that happens after professional athletes lose a game badly. So I'm not going to take it too literally. But yeah, apparently there was heated arguments with 4 different players. I kind of get it, though. I mean, Bruno Fernandes confronting Scott McTominay. I would say to Scott McTominay, what did you do in that game? You were completely... there was no point even having you on the pitch. I don't really know what Lisandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof would have been arguing about, to be honest, because I think they were both as poor as each other. Both of them made mistakes. Both of them were, you know, at fault for some of the goals individually. So I don't really point any blame at either of those two. By way of individual blame, I think they both didn't play very well. Whereas Scott McTominay, I think he was just like, he wasn't even worth having on the pitch. But let me know what you think about that one. Do you get worried about things like this? Do you think it's the beginning of the dressing room, you know, turning against each other? Or do you think this is just a natural result of professional athletes being upset after losing a game badly that they, I mean, I don't want to say they should have won, but they're at home. We haven't lost a game for 20 matches. You weren't expecting us to lose that game. I mean, as a fan, I think I was a little bit worried, but I still thought we'd win that game, you know. So it is a massive, massive disappointment. But let's move on to the next story, though. Let's talk a little bit about Erik Ten Hag. So there's a story coming out this morning saying that Erik Ten Hag has been frustrated with the team's performances this season. And this morning in Carrington was hot for all players. Now, this story came out yesterday. So when he says hot, that means, you know, angry. He wasn't happy. It goes on to say, sources within Carrington have described this morning with Erik Ten Hag shouting at the players for their lack of commitment, especially when we didn't have the ball and the weak pressure against Brighton. And you know what? I 100% agree with everything that I've just read there. Some of those clips I saw back of Rashford, right? Rashford was pressing less than Cristiano Ronaldo did. And you saw the abuse that Cristiano Ronaldo got when he was at Manchester United. All of the pundits saying, they've got to get rid of him. He doesn't press. He doesn't try hard enough. When it's Marcus Rashford, it seems to be only the Manchester United fan base who acknowledge it. The rest of them say, oh, Rashford, you know, they all love him. Literally, watching Marcus Rashford in that game was pretty frustrating at points. So I can see why Erik Ten Hag was angry about their off-the-ball work, because none of them were really pressing. The only person who was pressing in that front line was Rasmus Højlund and Bruno Fernandes occasionally. The rest of them were just kind of walking around, literally letting the players just walk past them. And it's unacceptable. You can't have that happen at Manchester United. You can't be talking about a lack of effort. That's the bare minimum that needs to happen at a team of Manchester United's level. If you're not even putting in effort, then you shouldn't be at the club, in my opinion. And I don't like the whole thing of, you know, players thinking that they're so good that they don't have to work, you know? I understand it with Messi, okay? Messi has always been known for walking around the pitch and people say he doesn't work hard enough off the ball and stuff. But it's Lionel Messi. He's one of the greatest players of all time. Whereas Marcus Rashford, does he fall in that same category? I wouldn't say so. Is he one of the best players in the Premier League? Maybe on his day, but I wouldn't say like consistently he's the best player in the Premier League, you know? So it doesn't make it excusable to not be pressing people, to not be chasing people and all the rest of it, because that's the bare minimum that's expected for you as a Manchester United player, especially when you're working in Erik ten Hag's system, which is very supposed to be high press, you know, putting a lot of pressure on the ball when you don't have it. But we just don't see that. I don't understand why, and I can see why this story has come out saying that Erik ten Hag was shouting at them all because of their lack of commitment, especially when Manchester United didn't have the ball against Brighton. And I 100% agree with that. But let me know what you guys think about that one. Let's see what people are saying in the comment section this morning. Shay says the only pressing Man United do is depressing. Yeah, fair enough. I agree. Chris says these players have just had a 20% pay increase for qualifying for Europe. Yeah, I mean, it's mad, isn't it? It's like they've just taken the foot off the pedal now, knowing that they've just got this big payday. You know, they think that they're better than they are. They're all just like walking around, not doing much. What else have we got? Tom says, if Erik ten Hag is setting standards and discipline, then he's failing. I mean, fair enough, yeah. I can't really argue with that because, you know, he is the manager. And if he can't inspire them, motivate them to do the things he wants, then yeah, I guess he is failing, isn't he? But I'm not going to pinpoint that on the manager because we've had so many different managers come in and have the same problem with these set of players. Remember that. You know, you had Mourinho, you had obviously Oli for a while was good. And then the players turned on him. So it's not like it's the first time this has happened, is it? It happens every single time. They have a good year or so with the manager, and then the players decide, maybe they become a bit complacent, they start to think they're better than they are, and then they all turn on the manager. It's just a reoccurring thing. It's just a roundabout effect, isn't it? But yeah, let's move over to the next story. Now, Henry Winter for The Times has put out an article this morning, which I really, really like, okay? And hats off to him. I applaud him because some of the journalists in the UK are very quick to jump down Erik ten Hag's throat. I'm talking TalkSport, I'm talking platforms like that who are very... He loses a game and they're just talking about sacking him, you know? And it's just poor journalism. It's clickbait journalism. It's not particularly intelligent journalism, is it? Now, Henry Winter this morning in The Times has gone out with the headline, Manchester United fans should save their anger for the Glazers, not Erik ten Hag. I completely agree with that. So that's the headline of his article. He goes on to say that Manchester United need new owners, not a new manager. Erik ten Hag was being responsible when subbing Rasmus Højlund. Ten Hag's not perfect, but United need more like him, taking responsibility and demanding higher standards. And I have a lot of respect for that. I really, really do. I think it's good that we're getting journalists, pundits, whatever you want to call them. Obviously, Alan Shearer came out with something similar the other day, actually looking at it from a fair perspective, because for me, Erik ten Hag isn't the problem. I know we've spoke about this many times on the channel. He's part of the problem, but he's not the main reason that we're having the issues we have. Because as I said, Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, Ragnick, Oli, even David Moyes, all of these managers have failed, okay? Some of them are better than others, obviously. I'm not saying that David Moyes is a world-class manager. He's not. But Mourinho, he was one of the greatest managers of all time. He's won countless amounts of trophies, and he came in and failed. And you know, wasn't getting the players he wanted, wasn't getting the backing he wanted, and all the rest of it. And ultimately, he failed. So I'm glad that there are journalists and pundits who are seeing it from our perspective and not just seeing it from the, oh, you spent 200 million in the summer. Well, no, we didn't spend 200 million. Our net spend was about 110 million. We bought in Mason Mount, who no one really understands why we bought. We bought in a goalkeeper. We brought in a striker for way more money than he was worth. And we brought in Amrabat, who's injured. So when you actually look at our summer window, and people just say, oh, well, you spent 200 million. That's not correct, is it? We know that. We all understand, if you do any basic maths, that our net spend was around 100 to 110 million. But we also removed about 30 to 40 million pounds worth of wages on top of that. So when you factor those things in, you know, Erik ten Hag would have liked a new goalkeeper. He probably would have liked a new wing back, maybe someone like Frimpong. He would have liked another midfielder. He would have liked another winger. Like, you know, the list goes on and on and on and on. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him because I know Brighton, the team that Brighton had against us on Saturday was worth 17 million. And they managed to get it playing incredible football. But the thing I've said to you many, many times before, and I'm sorry if this sounds like a broken record, but Brighton bring in players who fit Brighton's philosophy as a club, okay? Those aren't De Zerbi signings. It's not De Zerbi masterclass where he's been, you know, scouting the market bringing in, assembling a squad for 17 million. That's not how it works at Brighton. At Brighton, the director of football, the CEO, the scouts, they pick the players based on what they want the style of football to be like at Brighton, okay? They do the recruitment, and then they bring in a manager who will be able to play the style of football naturally as to what they see themselves as a club. Does that make sense? And that's why those clubs do well. But Manchester United don't have that. We don't have an identity. And I think the Erik ten Hag appointment is us trying to find that identity, okay? So once we have that identity, once we have our style of play under Erik ten Hag, which we don't have yet, but it does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, how long did it take Brighton to get to where they are now? Okay, let's have a look at that quickly, just as an example. Brighton are doing really well at the moment, but they were doing well under Potter as well. So it's not like overnight they've just suddenly started being amazing. It's taken them probably 10 years to get to this style of football, to have the right CEO, to have the right scouts, to have the right director of football, you know, and to actually have a style of play that they actively now recruit players to continue building on their specific style of play. We haven't had a style of play since Alex Ferguson left 10 years ago, Sir Alex. 10 years ago was the last time we had a style of play. Every different manager we've had has played different football. Some has been counter-attacking. Louis van Gaal was like 70% possession, having like 2 shots a game. I don't remember what David Moyes' football was like, to be honest. I kind of blanked that out of my memory. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was counter-attacking. Ragnick, who knows? I don't think he even knew what he was doing, really, did he? But my point here is that every manager we've had has tried to play something differently. And that's why we are where we are. And that's why we need to back Erik ten Hag, because he is trying to create our style of play for the future. Yeah? So if we back him, and then when that style of play works, and when it starts gelling, that will be our style of play for the next 10 years. So, for example, as and when Pep Guardiola leaves, okay, I'm sure Manchester City will already know who the next manager for Man City is going to be. Probably De Zerbi, depending on when Pep Guardiola leaves. And they'll bring in somebody who plays a very similar style of football to Pep Guardiola. So they're not changing, they're changing manager, but they won't really be changing system, and all of the players within their profile will still work. Whereas at Manchester United, we just bring in random people, you know, we bring in random signings who don't fit any system because we don't have a system, and they just say, you know what, boys, go out there, have a bit of fun, see how you get on, and let's hope we win the game. And that was what Ollie's tactic was for the whole 2-3 years that he was here. Bring in players, random people, stick them all on the pitch, tell them to just have a shot when they get a chance, tell them to park the bus and hope we win games. And that's my take on it. And we've just got to be patient with it, okay? I get it. People are frustrating. People are frustrating. People are frustrated. People want Manchester United to win football matches. I 100% understand that. But I'm telling you now, if we get rid of Erik ten Hag, it will send us backwards. It will, because we don't have a style of play. If we already had this style of play already, and Erik ten Hag wasn't getting the results, then yeah, maybe sack him. Bring in somebody else who plays the same style of football and maybe can motivate the players better. But these players, he's been here for a year and they still haven't learned how to play his style of football. What's going to happen if you bring in a new manager with new ideas and new, you know, it's just going to be a complete mess. So anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but I wanted to get my thoughts across on how I feel about Erik ten Hag at the moment. Try and give you a bit of context, you know, comparing it to other clubs, because you always get people in the comments saying, oh, look what De Zerbi's done in a year. Well, that's not correct. Brighton have been playing this style of football for a long time already. Their previous managers played this style of football. They just brought in another manager who they knew could play exactly the same style of football as the old one. And if you watch that video that I told you to watch, type in, I think it's called Elite Performance interview with Brighton CEO. Go and watch that after this. It's unbelievable. Brighton already know who the next 3 managers are. They already know if Moises Caicedo goes, or when he went, who the next signing is going to be. They already have 2 or 3 players who are an exact like-for-like mould of that player to bring in and replace them, so they can carry on playing the same style of football. And that's what we need. And we ultimately don't have that. Everybody who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. It's completely free, doesn't cost any money. Obviously, any support is, of course, appreciated. We're on the road to 20k subscribers, so I've set myself a bit of a goal to hit that, or a goal for this community to hit that by the end of September. So please do go and subscribe. We're about 60 subscribers away from 18,800. So let's see if we can hit that by the end of today's video. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Somebody says Erik ten Hag's style is 3-1-6. Casemiro is not Superman anymore. I am worried about Casemiro. Yeah, I really, really am. I think Casemiro will need replacing in the summer. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be in part of the team at all, but I think we need someone younger, someone more athletic, someone whose legs... I mean, that game against Brighton, he looked sloppy. Was it because he was off playing in Brazil? over the international break and maybe, was jet lagged. I don't know. But he looks sloppy. So I'll obviously give him another chance. It's only 5 games into the season. Hopefully Casemiro picks up his form again. But so far, Casemiro has been very, very poor for me. Quite a lot of our better players from last year have been poor. I think Martinez has been quite poor so far. Obviously, he was unbelievable last season. He was one of our best players, but I think he has been a little bit sloppy so far this season. Obviously, Lindelof, I think, has been a bit sloppy. Who else have we got? Dallow's okay. Reguilon looked good against Brighton, to be fair. So big ups to Reguilon. He did really, really well. Let's see what people are saying in the comment section then really, really quickly. Fred says the players need stability. Kyle says we as a fan base need to back Erik ten Hag. He's not the problem. 100%, 150%. And I'll say this, all right? Just because I always get people saying to me, Kieran, why are you not being critical towards Erik ten Hag? Blah, blah, blah. Let me say this, right? Once we start seeing Erik ten Hag football, okay? If the results don't start happening then in the kind of next years, yes, get rid of him and bring in somebody who plays the same style of football. Because the key thing for me here is, as I just said to you guys, is we need to identify what our style of play is going to be. And I think that's what Erik ten Hag has been brought in to do. He's been brought in to change the mentality at the club. So, like with the Ronaldo situation, with the Sancho situation, he's been coming to bring in authority, but he's also been brought in to identify what Manchester United are going to be known for the next 10, 20, 30 years, okay? Whether or not he'll be the manager for the next 10, 20, 30 years, I don't know. Maybe it won't work. But I think his job, the big job for Erik ten Hag, is to actually get Manchester United playing a style of football again. Once we have that style of football, you would then hope that Manchester United would then recruit further managers and further players who fit within that style of football. But it's up to the director of football, the CEO, the scouts to be able to build behind the scenes, the players that are required for that system. Whereas at the moment, Erik ten Hag's doing everything, it's an impossible job when you compare it to, Manchester City. Manchester City, a lot of their credit of recruitment and stuff, none of that's done by Pep Guardiola. Like, they know what style of football Pep Guardiola wants to play, and then they identify players who will suit his system. And that's how he's been so successful. That was why Erik ten Hag was successful at Ajax, because he had a team of people behind him who identified what style of football he was playing and what profiles of player would fit within that system. So that's what you have to remember. And I just want to be clear on that, because I see a lot of people just like, get De Zerbi, sack Erik ten Hag. And I think it's just a little bit single-minded and not really giving it the full picture. But let's move on to the next bit. So, whilst we're talking about Erik ten Hag, Fabrizio Romano has come out this morning saying that Erik ten Hag remains 100% committed to the Manchester United project. He believes they have been unlucky and the club are completely backing him in this process. So that's positive for all of you who are, like me, 110% Erik ten Hag in. Fabrizio saying that the club are backing him 100% and that his job is ultimately not on the line, which is positive, because we had a couple of people yesterday saying, oh, there's an emergency meeting happening, and people were kind of there was a bit of scaremongering going around. Is Erik ten Hag's job on the line? Blah, blah, blah. And for me, 100% it isn't. And the most positive thing from that statement is the fact that Erik ten Hag is 100% committed, because if I was Erik, right, and the Glazers don't go, I would probably walk. He's not a Manchester United fan. He's not a Manchester United legend like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's just a person who's been brought in to, in my opinion, do the hardest job in world football. Because not only because we have such high expectations, and not only because we're scrutinised so much by the press, but the actual job he has to do on a footballing scale of creating an identity for Manchester United, a club who's has had no identity since Sir Alex Ferguson left. That's a massive job for any manager, regardless of who it is. And to be doing that all on his own, with John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold as his two kind of sidemen, I mean, it's an absolute joke, isn't it? Fabrizio then comes out that the feeling among people close to the club is that Erik ten Hag is not the problem. Extra sporting matters, injuries, and the sale process are what pose problems for the day-to-day work. So there's a common theme here amongst the credible journalists, let's call them, in this industry, all pointing the finger at what's going on behind the scenes and not at Erik ten Hag. And I think that's correct. And I think, you know what, I respect all of these people for presenting it in this way, because as I said earlier on in the show, you go on TalkSport, and I'm sure this morning Gabby Agbonlahor has probably sat there saying, oh, Erik ten Hag, he spent 200 million in the summer. Oh, is his job on the line? Oh, I think he should be sacked. Just spouting absolute rubbish. He probably doesn't even watch any of the Manchester United games. He probably doesn't even know that, the extent of information we know as a community here and as a fan base. about our club. And we just got to be very aware of that, because those are the types of things that you see trending on Twitter, and and it's all just it's just over the top, isn't it? It's just to get clicks, it's to get likes, and I just want to make sure people are aware of that. I'm sure you guys are, because I know I know everybody here kind of can filter out the rubbish, but I just wanted to make that bit clear. Right, let's see what people are saying in the comments section. Somebody says West Ham beat Brighton and we couldn't do the same. Okay, well, fair play to West Ham. They've obviously done something right. Let's have a look what else everyone is saying. Tom says the problem is that the Ajax way is drilled into them from childhood. He effectively was just picking players that was spent time in the academy or whoever Overmars bought, so what's his style? Well, I mean, at Ajax, his style was high possession, high press. It was all of our players, when we had the ball, or Ajax's players, in the opponent's half. It was literally pinning the opponent in their half, making it really, really difficult for them to get out of it. That was what Erik ten Hag did at Ajax. We have seen it in moments. We saw it for 15, 20 minutes against Brighton on Saturday, and I said that was the best 15 minutes I've seen all season. And then Brighton changed things up, and it didn't work effectively, did it? Stefan says Erik ten Hag is perfect, lads. The issue is the takeover. Yeah, I agree. Right, let's read out this little bit about the takeover. Where is it? Actually, let's touch on this really quickly. Fabrizio Romano was also talking about failed signings from the summer. And he says Manchester United were in pole position to sign Xavi Simons this summer if the player had refused to return to PSG following the activation of their buyout clause. Now, we did speak about this one over the summer, and I've told you that Xavi Simons is somebody that I think is unbelievable, somebody I would have loved to see at Manchester United. Obviously, he has gone back to PSG. He's on loan at Red Bull Leipzig at the moment. I'm gutted we missed out on him. And it is interesting to see that we were really, really targeting him. And it's interesting to see that Erik ten Hag did want another attacking player. We knew this all summer. We knew that we needed another attacking player. And this was before Sancho got thrown out of the team, and before what's he called? Anthony had all of this, stuff going on with him. And talking of wingers, I just want to move over to this one really, really quickly. Now, this is coming out from a couple of different journalists this morning. I want everyone to take this with a pinch of salt. I want everyone to remember who we're playing tomorrow when I read out this bit of news, okay? It says Manchester United are preparing a bid for Bayern Munich's Serge Gnabry, with the club ready to offer around £52 million for the 28-year-old. Now, I want you guys to let me know, is Serge Gnabry somebody you would like to see at Manchester United? Let me know in the comment section. Is this somebody who you actually genuinely think could come to Manchester United? For me, I think no. And as I said a couple of seconds ago, I think this is just because we're playing them tomorrow. And you know that Manchester United, whenever we're about to play somebody, it's always, oh, Manchester United want to sign Evan Ferguson. That's what we had last week, wasn't it? It was Manchester United have been scouting Evan Ferguson. They're thinking of signing him in 2 transfer windows a couple of days before we play Brighton. Now, the day before we play Bayern Munich, certain media outlets are saying that we're trying to sign Serge Gnabry. I think it's quite obvious that it's just a load of rubbish for me personally. It's topics that could be believable, and they do it around certain sporting events to generate hype, to generate clicks, and that's all that's happening here. And for me, I think there's no truth in this story. I definitely don't think the Manchester United are in for Serge Gnabry, but let me know what your thoughts are in that one in the comment section. It's just a bit of hype for me, and it's rubbish. I'll put that one straight in the bin. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe some of you want him. Most of you in the comments are saying, no, I don't want Serge Gnabry. No, not Gnabry. I agree. It's a definite no for me. He's 28 years of age. Obviously, he's done pretty well for Bayern Munich, but yeah, it's definitely not for me. Right, let's move over to this story about the takeover that's come out from, where is it? Yeah, so the story is this. It says that apparently the players are feeling the pressure because of the uncertainty around the takeover. So there is a bit of a rumble going on now that, the players are unhappy, really, and uncertain with what's going on with the takeover. And I mean, I understand that. I don't think it's an excuse not to go out and give 110%. I mean, can Marcus Rashford blame the takeover not happening on him not being able to mark players and to press players? I don't really get the link to that personally. I think it's a little bit of an excuse. Can Casemiro looking like he's sluggish and off the ball be attributed to the fact that the Glazers haven't sold the club yet? I don't think so personally. And I think that there's more to it than that. And I think it's a little bit of a a get out of jail free card attempt to be like, oh, the players are, they're really unhappy about the takeover, and there's so much uncertainty, and it's really getting to them. And it's a little bit of a like, come on, really? If you were winning games, would they be coming out saying that? I don't think so. So I think it's just a little bit of an excuse, and I don't really buy it, to be honest. The players who are at Manchester United, they're paid ridiculous amounts of money. They should be able to motivate themselves to be able to go out on that pitch and perform and run harder than the other team, do more distance than the other team, press harder than the other team. And they don't do that. And that's why we lose games. It's as simple as that, really, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know about that one. I think it's a bit of a rubbish story, but let me know what you think about that one. Do you guys think it's a reasonable excuse for the players to say that the takeover is causing them to not be able to perform on the pitch? I agree that it's an unnecessary distraction and that it's not helping, but I don't think you can say that we lost against Brighton because the Glazers haven't sold the club yet. I don't think that's entirely fair, From a player performance perspective, if you look at it, deep underlying reasons, I think it does make sense, but for the players to be unhappy about it, I'm not too sure. Let's see what people says. Somebody says Marcus Rashford needs competition. I mean, I thought that Garnacho would be the competition for Rashford, but it just doesn't seem like Garnacho's going to get much game time, does it? He played that first game against Wolves, and then he hasn't really played any minutes since. He's, played about half an hour? So I don't know what this means for Garnacho, really. I thought this was going to be his breakout season where he would start every single match, but I can't really see it now, personally. Let's see what people are saying in the comments. Stefan says the Glazers have to go public and make a clear decision. I understand that players downing tools. I'll never understand players downing tools. They're playing for the biggest club in the world. They're getting paid ridiculous amounts of money. And I just think it's a little bit, I think it's just a bit embarrassing, really. There is a little bit of a story late last night that came out about the takeover, which I will touch on quickly. It's coming out from David Hellier, who is a journalist for Bloomberg, which is obviously the financial business platform, website, whatever you want to call it. And he is reporting the following. He says, I was told that not much will happen in the takeover process in August and September, but it is believed that the process will progress within the next few weeks. My feeling is that Sheikh Jassim will succeed in taking over the club in the end. So this was coming from a journalist from Bloomberg. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, to be honest. Like, he's not really giving us much, is it? He's saying that he was told nothing would happen in August and September. I mean, well, we know nothing's happened in August and September, so that's a relatively nothing statement to come out with. And then him to say that there will be progress in the next few weeks. Okay, well, let's wait and see. We'll come back to that tweet in a couple of weeks. If there's been progress, then fair play to this guy. He's predicted it correct. If not, then it'll just be another journalist, another person, who's come out saying that, oh, the takeover is going to happen tomorrow, or, when Rio said that something massive is happening today, and then 4 months later, nothing happens. It's just a recurring theme. Nobody knows what's going on. And you know what? The most truthful bit of news I've seen about the takeover in the last couple of days was from Fabrizio Romano. So Fabrizio Romano was talking on, I think it's the Court Offside podcast, and he said the following. He said, things are happening regarding the Manchester United takeover behind the scenes. So that's really positive. Stuff is going on. Okay? But he goes on to say, but the parties involved prefer to keep the details a secret. And I think that's the truth. That's what we all should know, that they want to keep the specifics of the deal a secret. They have a non-disclosure agreement, and we're not going to find out who's going to win. You can get journalists saying, I think this person's going to win, but they're just guessing. Let's see what people are saying in the chat then. We've got about a couple minutes left of the show. Please do go and smash a like on the video, everybody. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm going to read out a couple of your questions before the end of the show. Let's see what people are saying. Okay, Tom says it's the same person who said it would be over months ago from Bloomberg. I mean, exactly, yeah. I think a lot of these journalists who come out of these types of things, it's a risky thing to do, because if they get it wrong, they just lose all credibility going forward, given the magnitude of this, this situation with the takeover. If they come out saying that, oh, somebody's told me the takeover is going to happen next week, it doesn't happen, and then 3 months later they come out with another story saying, oh, it's going to happen in 2 weeks. It's just like, come on. Do you really believe us? Do we really believe you now? So it's like the only ones who you really can 100% believe, in my opinion, is like the Fabrizios, maybe the Laurie Whitwells from The Athletic, a couple of others. But generally, a lot of these ones, like from Bloomberg, a lot of these other journalists, they're just guessing. Let's see what people are saying. A lot of people are saying, no, I don't want Serge Gnabry. Yeah, I agree. Anthony says, I watched Scarlet Report on YouTube about Man United analysis. I saw that Welbeck was better than Rashford for pressing and his movement. I mean, that's not, I completely, without even watching whatever this video is that you're talking about, I can believe that. I mean, Rashford didn't press at all. He was just jogging round. And that's never going to work for Manchester United, you know? If you're scoring a hat-trick every single game and you're Lionel Messi, one of the best players in the world, then great, yeah, jog around, don't contribute to the rest of the team. But if you've scored 1 goal in 5 matches, he had about 10 shots against Brighton. I think about 1 of them was on target. Like, you're not on the same level as Mbappe. You can't just be walking around, you know, scoring 1 goal in 5 games. Like, that's not excusable. You have to be giving 110%. Considering, like, how athletic, how fast, how, you know, fit, how strong Rashford is, you know that he has enough in his engine to be able to run all game. Like, that's what I don't understand. It's not like he's some really, really slow player, right, who can't run. It's not like he's a Weghorst. I mean, Weghorst pressed constantly, and he was slow. He was obviously a lot older than Rashford as well. Let's see. Stefan says, I think De Zerbi is perfect, and I don't want to miss the boat with him. Ten Hag is good, but De Zerbi is a United manager. Stefan, I assume you've only just... Oh, Stephen, sorry. I assume you've only just started watching the show. I explained for a long time why sacking the manager won't make any difference, okay? It won't, because Manchester United don't have a style of play. You bring in De Zerbi, it will take him 2 to 3 years probably to identify the style of play from nothing, because we don't have one, to bring in the right players. It might mean that half the people in our team don't fit that style of play, and then we might start playing football. He's been here for a year, Erik ten Hag. We don't have a style of play. Those types of managers only work when you already have a style of play within your club. You have players that suit that system. You identify a manager who you know is going to work for that specific system. You bring them in, and then they're able to succeed. That's the black and white of it. It needs to have the blueprint for any manager to succeed. Whereas at the moment, Erik ten Hag is trying to recreate Manchester United. He's starting from the bottom, in my opinion. And that's my take on it. Ron says Rashford isn't a team player. Ginge says Rashford thinks he's Mbappe. Yeah. Ginge says Rashford never presses. It's nothing new. He literally does nothing in the defensive setup, and all he does is shoot. He is a huge problem. I do agree, to be honest. I do. I think Rashford is one of our best players on his day, but emphasize the word on his day. Okay? A lot of the time, he doesn't complement the rest of the team. He doesn't work hard in defense. He doesn't run at people. He doesn't press. But obviously, when you look at his stats for last year, you'd say, well, he scored 30 goals last year. We probably wouldn't have got top 4 if it wasn't for Rashford. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? You know, you've just got to kind of work out how it works. But right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined me on the show this morning. We will, of course, be back live at 6 p.m. today for another show like this. If anything breaks during the day, we always do go live, as you do know. So please do make sure to subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell and do smash a like on the video before you leave today. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us this morning. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran, and I'll catch you all later.